Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, who came to us in the persons of Master Farad Muhammad, and I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is indeed thine exalted Christ. And I furthermore indeed bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is our big brother, owner, friend, leader, teacher, and guide. I greet you all in the nation greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Brother Albert Muhammad and the Let Us Make Man family, as always, family, we continuously thank you for your support. We thank you for taking a few moments of your time to watch our videos, read our posts, support our cause, our efforts, and the plight of the Black community. We can never thank you enough. As for those of us who are watching or this is your first time ever coming in contact with the Let Us Make Man family, we have had this YouTube channel for quite some time. We have posted videos in regards to our efforts and our work in the plight of the Black community. We have worked on Facebook for quite some time, and this year we were going to bring this new light to our YouTube channel, and using our YouTube channel to exalt all avenues in raising our people and raising the consciousness of our people. This particular session is dealing with the making of a God and killing the nigger in us. Huh? What do you mean by the making of a God? There's so many of us that are caught up in religious theologies, religious ideologies, and things of this nature. But yet, we are far-fetched from reality in what we say we believe. So this afternoon, we want to touch base with the subject, the making of a God, because this subject speaks volumes to the thought pattern and the mindset of those of us who will sit in some form of leadership of some shape, form, or fashion. Huh? In the scriptures, according to the Bible, those who are biblically inclined or read the Bible or well versed in the Bible, the God said, let us make man. Huh? He didn't make an ordinary man. He made an extraordinary man. But the key to this is, he said, in our image, after our likeness. Huh? So the God didn't only made a man that you and I can identify with, but he made this man in his image and after his likeness. Huh? Think about it. Why would God make a man in his image and after his likeness? If he did not want this man to propel and elevate to a supreme degree of knowledge and wisdom and exhibited that across the board, dealing with equality. Who has the ability today? Who has the know-how, the power to make a God? Huh? I only know one man on deck today that has the ability and the power to make a God. And I speak of none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You could take it or let it alone. See, when you make a God, you're talking about an upright, staunch soldier, individual with pure consciousness, with nothing but good at the heart for the most part. He doesn't want to see nothing but good given or directed towards his people, the people of God. That's you and I. Huh? God came in the persons of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, and he raised one from among us in the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the honorable Elijah Muhammad worked over 40 years teaching black people in America, the lost found Muslims. Yeah, I know many of you say, well, I'm not a Muslim. We don't want to hear this mumble jumble talk. We hear this all the time. I understand that. And that's why the condition of black people in America is the way it is today. That's why the mindset and the thoughts of black people in America is the way it is today. You refuse and you deny knowledge. You won't accept it. You dispute it, rebuke it. When someone comes along that can share with you something that was shared with them that made them a fairly decent person. Many of us don't want that. See? Many of us would rather be mischief makers or like the 10%. So teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Rich slave makers of the poor teach the poor lies. Many of us like the self-grandizing. We like the attention that we receive. So we don't want to teach that which what God taught. Jesus told the disciples, he said, men will turn against you for my name's sake. Meaning if you teach what I teach, governments will seek to kill you because of my name. So teaches Jesus the Christ as he were preparing the disciples to go out and continue the mission that he started. But he had to prepare them. That way they were well aware of what they would be up against. So for those of us today who consider ourselves to be ministers, preachers, deacons, pastors, you name it, all these titles that we have learned about over the years, if you don't have governments turning against you or seeking to kill you, then you have to ask yourself a question. Am I teaching what Jesus the Christ taught? See? So Jesus was in the process of making gods out of the disciples. But when he searched for the helpers, he searched distinctively looking for particular men that he could put this burden on, this mission on, making gods. See? Making saviors out of these people, preparing these people for what was to come in his absence. How men would turn against them. Men would be out to kill them. All of these things that were happening was what Jesus prepared them for. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is doing the same thing in dealing with our people. He's preparing us for what's to come after him. But he also said that we have to start at home first, in the house, in the mosque, in the study group, wherever we are. If we should stand any chance of defeating our open enemies, right? Then we must deal with the internal enemies in self. See? Because the nigger in us won't allow us to elevate above that triple state of darkness. What do you mean by that, brother? The selfishness, the ignorance, the ignorance, the over paranoia, the schizophrenic ways that we have, right? We struggle with that. And that's one of the main reasons why we are struggling for balance and striving to win our people over. What do we think, that our people are crazy? That we can come before our people and say anything and they don't really know what we're talking about? You're sadly mistaken if you have that kind of mentality, right? If you have that kind of mentality, you're sadly mistaken. See, because the thing about our people, they're wise and intelligent people. Whether they Muslims, Christians, atheists, Buddhists, whatever. We are from a group of intelligent ancestors. Our history shows our level of intelligence. So you think just because our people come along, they're not aware of what's going on around them. And so when we're not talking to their current conditions, then what do we really have to offer our people? Other than lies and BS. Because many of us want to be seen among men. And because we want to be seen among men, we will do and say any damn thing under the sun. See? When God was speaking to Moses from a burning bush, as Moses approached God, he said, hold up, remove your shoes, because the ground you're standing on is holy ground. And Moses had no other choice but to comply. See? In the 18th surah of the Holy Quran, called the cave, Moses met with a man that took him on a journey. But they didn't tell you that he met with God. They just said he met with a mystery man, because they always want you to believe that God is a mystery. They don't want you to really know that God is a man. But this man took Moses on a journey. But while Moses was on a journey, he was in the process of making a God out of Moses, preparing Moses for the mission that will be laid upon him. See, you can't become a God without going through something, man. All of us have to go through something, despite what it is, to become a God. You can't become a God just sitting around bickering, bitching, and arguing. That doesn't make you a God. That just makes you a damn fool. What makes you a God when you can endure the trials and tribulations that God put on you to become a God. To become a God, you have to become purified. You have to deal with the nigger in you and us. We have to deal with the nigger in us. The one that we're fighting. They said Gabriel wrestled, or angel wrestled with the devil all night, right? And then they paint pictures. You see an angel and then you see a devil, the two of them wrestling. So you think that's separated from you. That doesn't include you. That's a goddamn lie. It's dealing with you, because inside there's a God in you, then there's a devil in you that we wrestle with night and day. When we can't stand each other for no goddamn reason, but not man enough or woman enough to deal with it, so the nigga in us won't allow us to grow and become gods. Farrakhan is in the business of making saviors, not niggas. I've been around long enough, not that long, but enough to understand the basic fundamental teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, which you will find in that great book titled The Message to the Black Man. You will find the basic fundamental teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad in the message to the black man. That which will help you become a God, if that is truly your interest. See, I would love to become a God. I would love to conduct myself in a God-like manner. I would love to purify my thoughts, humble my spirit, that I can walk in the path of the gods that walk before me. But I know that I have to be able to endure and overcome the trials and tribulations that I have to go through to become a God. I can't become a God no other way. The nigga in me won't allow me, and I'm speaking for me. I'm not speaking about nobody else. I could give a damn about that. Because if what I say touch you in a way, then it should touch you. But we're talking about the making of a God. See, God said, let us make man. He didn't say, let us make a nigga. God didn't make a nigga. The man that he made a nigga. God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And after that, all hell broke loose. Because the first man was a perfect man, perfected like God. Matter of fact, he was a God. Because he was made by the God. So what do you mean, brother? You're talking about making of a God, and God said this and that, and you said there's no mystery God. Indeed, there isn't. When we talking about the God, man, I explained to you, there's a God to the left, to the right of you, then there's a wicked demon on the left side. So God exists within us. There's no mysteries. The only mysteries to that is to how to bring your God criterion out of you and become the man that you know you are. So I thank Allah for giving me the opportunity to be up under the bosom of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I'm doing all that I can to endure my trials. I have some great ones. I'm doing all I can to deal with my paranoia because I'm not in the denial. I recognize that this is a struggle, but this struggle has been ordained from the time we stood up and asked the messenger of Allah, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, to accept us when we wrote our letter. And that we were willing to help his servant, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, deliver the 17 million more dead to the Lamb of God, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. That is the commitment that we made, those of us who wrote that letter to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Some of us say, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. That is their commitment. What are you committing yourself to do? You're committing yourself to do the work of the God. You're committing yourself to do the work that God taught Muhammad the prophet of that day. That is what you're committing to. So even if you say, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, you're still committing yourself to be a God or God-like, to teach the wisdom of God, not the wisdom of Shaitan, the devil, the nigger in us. Because we can easily say peace, assalamu alaikum, but mean death, so teaches the Holy Quran. That's easy for us to do. We can easily envy each other, hate each other, don't speak to each other, because we can't deal with the nigger in us because we in denial. We don't want to accept the fact. How do you go to your brother? How do you go to your sister with love and harmony if they don't even trust you coming to them? So there's a struggle already that one has to overcome. Being able to sit with your brother, being able to sit with your sister in harmony and pray to the God within, that the meeting of the minds come together. for one common cause: freedom, justice, and equality, and Islam. That should be the one common cause when we break bread together with each other, that we be teaching freedom, justice, equality, and Islam across the board. Because if we focus on that, then we have no room for envy, jealousy, lust, hate, the way we treat each other in the name of some superficial religious ideology. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, I heard that I'm not a religious man. I'm a poor righteous teacher. See, because a religious man is someone who's caught up one way or the other in traditions. See, because traditions come with religion. The Quran said, I perfected this religion for you, Islam. But he wasn't talking to us because we already had it. He was speaking to those who did not have the knowledge of Islam. The Arabs that was living in the state of Jahiliyyah, ignorant. They were the ones that the Quran was perfected for. The original man writes Islam